Hi everyone, please subscribe my YouTube Chanel new more videos. She snapped, quit acting like we're hitched. You don't get to dictate where I go or who I hang out with. Everyone burst out laughing. I just grinned and kept my mouth shut. But when she returned from her weekend getaway, her key didn't work, and the neighbor explained exactly why. My girlfriend Jessica and I have a core disagreement about how the world works. I believe that if you're living in someone's house, eating their groceries, and using their Wi-Fi, you're in a partnership. Jessica, on the other hand, sees herself as a radiant star, with me as some tiny, irrelevant moon orbiting her glow. We've been together for 2 years, and for the past 6 months she's been crashing at my place. My name's on the mortgage, the utility bills, and the little sign by the door that says The Wilsons, which she bought without consulting me, an overly hopeful gesture in hindsight. I'm a laid-back guy. I enjoy my simple life. I work from home as a graphic designer, have a couple of close buddies, and my idea of a wild Friday night is testing out a new frozen pizza brand. Jessica, she's the opposite. Her life's a stage, and her audience is her 3 best friends, a trio I secretly call the Sirens. Their names are Tiffany, Brittany, and well, let's call the third one Merlot. The trouble started last weekend. I was cooking dinner when Jessica breezed into the kitchen, phone glued to her ear, already dressed to head out. She was mid-conversation with the Sirens, her voice loud and animated. "OMG, yes, I'm totally in," she said into the phone. "A weekend away is just what I need. No, he's not coming, don't be absurd." She hung up, turned to me with a dazzling smile, and announced, "Great news. The girls and I are hitting the lake for the weekend. We're leaving tomorrow." This was news to me. "Oh, cool," I said, stirring the spaghetti sauce. "Sounds like a blast. Which lake are you guys going to?" It was a basic, practical question, the kind any reasonable person in a relationship might ask. But Jessica looked at me like I just asked her to solve a calculus problem in Latin. She let out a sharp, mocking laugh and turned to Tiffany, who just walked in. "Can you believe this guy?" she said, rolling her eyes. "What? He thinks he gets to know where I'm going." Tiffany smirked, eyeing me like I was a thrift store lamp she was about to toss. Jessica spun back to me, hands on her hips, and dropped a line that would reverberate through my near future. "Quit acting like we're hitched. You don't get to dictate where I go or who I hang out with." The Sirens, now all gathered in my kitchen, erupted in laughter. It was a chorus of mockery. They genuinely thought this was comedy gold. A guy in his own home, being told he has no right to ask a simple question about his live-in girlfriend's plans. Hilarious. I stood there gripping a wooden spoon as sauce dripped onto the floor. I didn't get angry. I didn't argue. A strange, serene calm washed over me. The part of my brain that was still trying to make this relationship work grabbed a tiny suitcase, put on a tiny cap, and quietly exited. I looked at her smug, grinning face and flashed a wide, vacant smile. "You know what?" I said, my voice dripping with cheerful agreement. "You're absolutely right, my bad." They all laughed again, thinking I was just caving. Jessica gave me a patronizing pat on the cheek, and then they swept out of the house for some pre-weekend cocktail party. I stood in the kitchen, the silence broken only by the simmering sauce. "All right," I said to myself, a new, far more entertaining plan taking shape. "Not hitched, no say, got it." The weekend was about to get fun, just not for her. Update 1: the second Jessica's car, probably stuffed with glittery outfits and a crate of Chardonnay, vanished down the street on Friday afternoon. I got to work. My first move wasn't packing or tidying. It was a tactical strike. I strolled over to Mrs. Grayson's house next door. Mrs. Grayson is an 80-year-old widow with a warm smile, an award-winning rose garden, and a surveillance system that make the FBI envious. Nothing happens on our block without her noticing. I brought her a slice of her favorite lemon pound cake and sat with her on her porch. "Mrs. Grayson," I said after we'd chatted about the weather and the neighborhood squirrels' lack of ethics, "I've got a situation, and I could use your help. It involves a bit of theatrics." Her eyes sparkled. The woman loves drama more than her roses. I laid out what happened, repeating Jessica's exact words, "Quit acting like we're hitched." I didn't need to exaggerate. The raw truth was incriminating enough. By the time I was done, Mrs. Grayson was patting my hand, her face full of righteous indignation. "That brazen little minx," she declared. "Don't you fret, Tom, I've got this. What's my line?" I gave her a simple script. When Jessica returned and found herself locked out, Mrs. Grayson was to act puzzled and drop a few key details. Mrs. Grayson embraced the role with the enthusiasm of a veteran stage actress prepping for opening night. With my co-star on board, I went home to launch what I dubbed Operation Bachelor Haven Reboot. For 6 months, my house had been overrun with beige cushions, useless decorative bowls, and art that looked like a photocopier had jammed mid-print. It was time to take back my space. I didn't just pack Jessica's stuff, I organized it with flair. I grabbed boxes and a fat black marker. The first box was labeled Daily Outfits. The second, Fancy Get-Ups for Trips I'm Not Invited On. The third, my masterpiece, was glittery gowns that shed sparkles on everything I own. Her 37 pairs of nearly identical heels went into a box called A Foot Doctor's Fever Dream. Her pile of makeup and skincare products filled boxes marked Face Goo and Assorted Creams. By Saturday morning, every trace of her belongings was boxed up. I hired a couple of guys from a moving app, and we hauled it all to a 10x15 storage unit. I paid for 1 month, a generous, non-marital gesture, I figured. With the house cleared, the real fun began. I went on a shopping spree. I rolled up the beige rug and replaced it with an AstroTurf rug that looked like a baseball diamond. I sold her bland white couch online and bought a massive black leather recliner sofa with at least 16 cup holders. Her boring minimalist coffee table was swapped for a retro pinball machine I found online. It didn't function, but it glowed, and that's what counted. Next up, the bedroom. I took down the tacky woven thing she'd hung over the bed and put up a framed poster of a wolf howling at the moon. It felt perfect. My final, genius move came Saturday afternoon. I visited the local animal shelter just to browse. An hour later, I came home with a 120-pound Saint Bernard puppy named Max. Max wasn't just a dog. He was a furry, slobbering, lovable tornado. He immediately claimed the new sofa as his throne and fell asleep, snoring like a chainsaw. The house was no longer a sterile showroom. It was a fortress of unapologetic bachelor glory. I spent the weekend tossing a ball with Max, sipping beer straight from the bottle in my living room, and changing all the passwords. The new Wi-Fi network was called Get Your Own Signal, with the password Not Hitched Haha. On Sunday evening, I lounged on my 16-cup holder sofa, Max's giant head in my lap, and waited. The chaos was coming, and for the first time in ages, I was ready. Update 2 Sunday night around 9 p.m., my video doorbell pinged my phone. There was Jessica, fresh from her lake trip, strolling up to the door, humming to herself. The show started almost instantly. She tried her key. It went in but didn't turn. The new deadbolt I'd installed that morning was doing its job. She jiggled it, her face showing mild irritation. She tried again. Then she huffed loudly and started pounding on the door. From the couch, Max raised his massive head, let out a deep woof, and went back to sleep. Jessica started calling my phone. I watched it buzz on the pinball machine, took a sip of my beer, and hit decline. She called again. Declined. This went on for 5 rounds. The door pounding got louder. "Tom, open the door. What's wrong with you?" "My key's not working." I stayed silent. This was all part of the performance. After another 5 minutes of frantic banging, she seemed to give up. The doorbell cam showed her pacing on the porch, hands in her hair. Then, right on schedule, a porch light flicked on next door. Mrs. Grayson appeared in her bathrobe, holding a watering can. Showtime. "Oh, Jessica, is that you?" Mrs. Grayson called out, her voice a perfect mix of surprise and concern. "Mrs. Grayson, thank goodness," Jessica said, rushing to the edge of my porch. "I can't get in, my key's not working. Is Tom home? I see lights on." "Oh, Tom's home," Mrs. Grayson said, nodding wisely. "He's had a fantastic weekend, a real makeover." "Makeover? What are you talking about?" "Well, he shared the good news," Mrs. Grayson said, leaning in like she was spilling a secret. "He said you two aren't hitched. Said he doesn't get a say in what you do, so he decided to celebrate his freedom. Redid the whole house. It's a man's place now," he said, very rugged. Jessica's jaw dropped. "And the best part," Mrs. Grayson went on, barely hiding her delight, "he got a dog. A big, beautiful boy named Max. Said he wanted a buddy who's loyal and doesn't talk back. Isn't that sweet?" Jessica's face was a portrait of shock and horror. She slowly turned and peered through my living room window. From my spot on the couch, I saw her face pressed against the glass, her eyes widening as she took in the baseball diamond rug, the pinball machine, and the giant, snoring Saint Bernard sprawled in her old spot on the sofa. She let out a noise that was half scream, half sob. She pulled out her phone and started firing off texts. My phone lit up with a barrage of furious, all-caps messages. That's when I decided to reply. I sent one simple text. "You told me to stop acting like we're hitched. Said I don't get a say. I agree. This is my house, and you don't get a say in how I live in it. Since we're not married, I've moved your stuff to a secure spot. Address is 123 Storage Lane, Unit 42. Code is 1234. You've got 1 month. Good luck. Then I blocked her number. The doorbell cam showed her reading the text. She stared at her phone, then at the window, then back at her phone. She let out a scream of pure rage and hurled her phone onto my lawn. It was a spectacular meltdown. She ranted for another 10 minutes before Tiffany, one of the sirens, showed up to whisk her away. The next day, the predictable social media storm kicked off. Vague posts about betrayal and men who can't handle a strong, independent woman. It was pathetic, but I had one final move. Final update: the social media drama was expected but dull. Jessica and the sirens posted stories with moody music, preaching about self-worth and cutting out toxic vibes. It was so generic it was almost funny. They tried to cast me as the bad guy, but it was like they were using a template. I let them ramble for 2 days. Then I decided to set the record straight. I didn't engage directly. Instead, I posted on my private social media, visible only to mutual friends. It was a photo album. The first shot was my living room from a month ago, the bland beige couch, the pointless bowls, the vibe of a doctor's waiting room. Caption: before. The second was my living room now, the epic leather recliner sofa, the baseball diamond rug, the glowing pinball machine, and Max sprawled out like a king. Caption: after. The final photo was a selfie of me and Max on the couch, both of us grinning. Caption: redecorated to match my new relationship status. Was told I'm not married and don't get a say, so I'm embracing my freedom. Bachelor life, dog is my wingman, no say no stay. The post was a game changer. The sheer pettiness paired with Max's undeniable charm was a knockout. My friends thought it was hilarious. The story, with context, spread like wildfire. People who'd initially sympathized with Jessica now saw the full picture. The narrative shifted from crazy boyfriend boots girlfriend to girlfriend says relationship's a joke, is shocked when he agrees. Jessica's crew went quiet. It's tough to play the victim when the villain is posting cute dog pics. Jessica's fallout was messy. She stayed with Tiffany, but that lasted less than a week. Word is Tiffany got fed up with Jessica's whining and not pitching in for rent. Jessica ended up moving back with her parents 3 hours away. She tried to come at me legally. I got a letter from her lawyer demanding access to the house for her, wrongfully held, stuff and compensation for being made homeless. My lawyer sent back a copy of my mortgage, the lease, with only my name, and a polite question about whether Jessica would be reimbursing me for 6 months of rent, utilities, and groceries she'd used as a non-married guest. Her lawyer never replied. The best part came a month ago at the dog park. Max was chasing a tennis ball and I was chatting with another dog owner. A woman approached nervously. It was Merlot, the third siren. She looked awkward. "Hey, Tom," she said, "I just wanted to say sorry about that night at your place. We were out of line." I shrugged. Jessica said what she said. I just took her at her word. "Yeah, I know," she said, shaking her head. "She's a lot. She called me last week, complaining her parents are making her get a job. She said it's all your fault for ruining her life." She glanced at Max, who was trying to stuff 3 tennis balls in his mouth. "Honestly, you seem like you're doing great." And she was right. I'm doing great. The house isn't a beige jail anymore. It's my home. The pinball machine still doesn't work, but it's a great conversation starter. Max is the best roommate I've ever had. He's loyal, hilarious, and never gripes about my cooking. I learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the best revenge isn't some elaborate plot. It's just listening to what people say and believing them. Jessica told me who she was and what our relationship meant to her. I just agreed. She said I don't get a say, and now in her life I don't. In my life she doesn't either. And that, plus a giant drooling dog, is a damn good ending.